Hi everyone, this is Sana. I'm a community initiative lead at Recro and welcome to another Recro's webinar. Recro is a developer-centric organization where we are trying to connect developers' aspiration to the right opportunity. And we are working here with the top-notch startup or the product startups like CureFit, Swiggy, Dunzo, Udan. And today we have with us Jaswant Singh. Jaswant is majorly working in UI front end, and he's currently working as a front end architect, UI lead in HPE, and also a co-founder of GS Lover Meetups. Jaswant, if you can say hi to our audience.
Hi everyone.
Awesome. I think they are able to hear you also. Awesome. So let me tell you more about platform. We are using AirMeet right now. And on the right hand side, you can see 4 options. One is session. The other one is raise hand option. In raise hand option, you can raise your hand and I can allow access to you, and then you can come here and you can directly ask question to our speaker. And then you can see attendees, so people who are right now actively watching us here, you can see these people as well. Plus we are having chat option there, wherein you can chat about anything you want to. And then we are having question section there, so please ask your questions in question section itself, otherwise we might miss out a few questions if it might miss out in chat itself. And that's it. That's about it. I think without doing further ado, we should get started. We are having today's topic. It's all about transitioning from Node to Deno. So we will be understanding about it more. And I think Jaswant would be the right person to tell us about this. So welcome you all, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule and coming here. Thank you so much, guys. We should start now.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon, or actually good evening. Thanks for joining in this session, and thanks Sana and Recro for inviting me on to this platform for giving this talk. And yeah, so today we're going to learn about Deno, why Deno is better compared to Node.js, and what is the state of Deno right now? Like, can we use it for our production applications? Does it have all the solutions which we need? And can we use it for our daily development, right? So just before I continue, I'll just give my intro. So I'm Jaswant, and I'm a part of HPE, and I'm a UI architect over there, and I have around 12 years of experience in front end and development, I would say. And I've been working on most of the JavaScript frameworks like Angular, or libraries like React, Node.js for my development in my okay. So if you have any questions regarding other topics also, like regarding Node.js, React, or Angular, or anything regarding JavaScript, you can also ask me questions in the later part of the session. But for now, today we're going to see how Deno fits into our development lifecycle. Okay, so before we continue, just make sure, is my audio clear? Are you able to hear me? Cool. Okay. All right, so let's start. I'll just start the presentation. So this session is set up as in 2 parts. So the theory part and the practical part, in which we're going to set up the Deno environment and start developing on it. And so I'll just go through the theory part like in a few minutes and cover up the basic topics, and then we'll see how the Deno code actually implements. All right, so what is Deno? So Deno is a secure runtime environment which is provided by the same developers who created Node.js. It focuses on issues which were in Node.js, which are actually Node.js right now, and tries to fix those out. So some of the key points over here, these are already mentioned on the Deno site. You can see it's a secure runtime environment. In the earlier approach, when we see Node.js, Node.js is also secure, but there are improvements which are now on the nodes in Deno now. Okay, so let's take up the first point, like secure by default. When you see over here on the Deno site, they say it's secure by default. So what does it mean? So secure by default means that when we run Node.js, Node.js actually runs a layer of V8 and C++ code to interact with the system APIs. Similarly, Deno also runs V8, but it has a combination of Rust also over here now. It runs Rust on the backend for doing all the network operations and all. Okay, so in the case of security, what happens is in Node.js, when I install Node.js on my system and run any JavaScript file, what it does, it gives the complete access to the JavaScript file. So as a developer, I know that I'm not writing any file access or any network access in my code, but maybe you are using some other packages which are using it. So maybe somebody who wants to hack into your system created an npm package and wrote some code to read some particular files in the system and send them through a network, over the network. Okay, so it doesn't happen most of the time. Like, it's not that everything this kind of things are happening, but it can be a scenario. Okay, so as a developer, I don't go through all the code. Like when you download npm, when you install an Angular application, sorry, when you install a Node.js application, you don't go through all the npm packages. There will be like thousands of npm packages, and you don't go through them and find out like what are the problems with those and what permissions they need. And what can actually happen is they can actually make network requests even though you are not designing your application to make any network requests. So in this case, Deno provides us an option that you can set flags that do I need to allow network access? Do I need to allow file access, environment access, or you can allow all the complete access to the application? So this way, you have better control now as a developer to tell the application that, okay, you cannot access file system when you're running. You can only access the network. You can receive requests and respond back to it, but any files on my system cannot be accessed. Okay. Second thing is Deno supports TypeScript out of the box. So when I am developing with Node.js, that's the first thing which I have to do. So as a developer, I have to set up a Webpack or a TypeScript compiler to run my TypeScript code and recompile it back to ES6 so that Node.js can understand that. Okay, so it's not a very big complex task, but as a developer, you have to do it every time for every application. Okay, and it's better to have an inbuilt solution. So like right now, Deno has an inbuilt solution built into it. So when it allows you to use TypeScript or JavaScript files along in your code. So if you want to use one file in TypeScript, one file in JavaScript, it allows you to handle that. And whenever you use a TypeScript file, it compiles back into JavaScript and then runs your code. So it's pretty handy. I don't have to write those TypeScript compiler code and Webpack scripts to convert my code. It's inbuilt into the system and it's out of the box. Okay. Next thing is Deno as an executable. Like this is the main architecture change which Deno has done. So in the case of Node.js, Node.js comes in different executable files. So you have npm, you have the Node.js library, the setup, and then you have multiple node modules coming in which are used in the application. Okay, so but now when you install Deno, it doesn't have any other dependency installed. It just installs the Deno runtime on your system, and that runtime handles all your dependencies, all your package installation, all of the things. So you only have to handle one command, which is the Deno command, to run your code, install packages, or manage dependencies. Now, the next thing is inbuilt utilities. So it has inbuilt utilities for dependency inspector and formatting of your code. So these are the additional parts. So these are all, available in your Deno code. Then there are a set of standard libraries which are published by the Deno team. So like when you install Node.js, it installs different standard libraries by itself also. So like packages like FS or Net or HTTPS or HTTP, these are installed by default in your Node.js environment. But in the case of Deno, they are not available on your system. So it doesn't install all of those native libraries which are required by Node.js. What it does is it gives you an option to download them when you need those specialized packages. So you will just install the Deno runtime, and whenever you need the network package, you can just say, okay, I need the network package. This is the path for it. You can download from there. So any standard libraries or any standard modules which are part of the Deno team, they are under the Deno URL, which is denoland/std. Okay. So these are the things which are improved in the basic improvements, but there are other lots of features which are getting introduced. And the development of Deno is pretty fast right now. Like when I gave the same session like 1 month back, Deno was just released and it was 1.0.0. But now in 1 month, they have improved a lot of things in the Deno code base, and they increased the version also of it. So right now, the current version of Deno is 1.1.0. Okay. Now, the next thing is installing Deno on your system. So depending on which type of machine operating system you're using, there are different steps for it. So if you're using a Mac machine, you can use brew install Deno. Or if you go to the Deno site, go to the installation section, they will give you steps for installing Deno on your machine. For Windows, they have the PowerShell scripts. For Linux, they have a curl URL which can be used for installing it. And important thing over here is when you're installing Deno, just verify the version. So I faced this issue. I installed Deno using brew install. It started installing a previous version of it, like 0.36, and it was not getting updated to a different version. So even I tried doing brew install multiple times, upgrading the brew install packages, but it didn't work out. So I have to use the curl command on the Deno site to install it on my system. Okay, so I will show you what you need to do. In this case, 1 second. Right, it's somehow stuck on over here. Right. Okay, something has happened with my system again. Yeah, I'll just leave it. Okay, so you have to go to the Deno site. It's deno.land. That site will give you the steps for installing the packages, the Deno environment on your system. So there are steps for it. Sorry, I'm facing some issue with the Chrome browser. It's getting slow and not showing up options over here to navigate. So I'm just skipping that part. You can just go to the Deno site. There is a very good article about it, like how Deno can be installed on different systems. Okay. The next step is interacting with the Deno CLI. So similar to Node.js, Deno also provides you a CLI in which you can interact with Deno. So I'll just show you the demos over here. My Visual Studio, I'll just open Visual Studio over here. Okay, in Visual Studio, I'll just open Deno Workshop. All right. All right, so I'm in this folder over here. So we'll see, like in Node.js, it provides you a CLI where you can run commands and you can configure different functions. In Deno, you can just run the Deno command. So I already have Deno installed on my machine. Installed it through the curl URL. That was working for me. Otherwise, it was giving me a wrong version. So just verify the version of it. So just run Deno -- version. Cool. So again, it stopped working on my system. So what we can do is we'll install Deno on my system again. I'm not sure why it's happening again and again. I've seen this, like this is the curl URL. I install it on my system, and then Deno stops working after some time. So you have to configure the paths for it. So these are the steps. So this is the URL which you can get from the Deno site. This is specific for Mac and Linux, but they also have a PowerShell URL which will run on Windows. Okay, so run this setup. Once this is setup is done, you have to manually set up the environment entries for it. So you have to set up the default install folder and set up the path for it. So it will give you the options for it. Like you have to just copy these commands and run your system. So once done, you can run the Deno command. Okay. Now you can see it's printing out the version of Deno. So right now on my system, the version of Deno is 1.1.0. So that's the latest version of Deno which we can use. Right. I'll just exit. So again, it's a REPL environment. I'll just clear it. Deno also provides you a REPL like Node.js. Over here, you can run simple JavaScript code. This will run under the REPL for Deno and provide you output for it. So you can write simple JavaScript logic, not good for big kind of implementation, but good for like simple things. So you can try out if what does console or log does, or you want to do a math operation. You can say, okay, what is the output of this? It prints out the value. Okay, so it's good for small JavaScript syntax. Like it's a similar kind of a REPL which Node.js provides, but this is specifically designed for Deno. We'll just exit out of this REPL. For exiting REPL environment, you have to do Control-C, similar to Node.js. So I will press Control-C, it exits, or you can do Control-D over here for clearing it out. Right, so this is the basic setup for Deno is done on my system. Now we'll see what are the commands Deno provides. So Deno provides us these commands. So these are some flags which are provided. The help flag, the logging level, quiet, the version of it. So these are the flags which it provides, and some commands which are available. So first is the bundle. So bundle is used for when you use Webpack. What Webpack does is it compiles all your packages, dependencies, and creates a single file. So the bundle also does the same thing. It gives you the output of all your Deno code, all the complete project, loading all the dependencies and everything as a single file. So it returns you the content of it, and you have to create a new file based on that content. The next is cache dependencies. So it's for caching the dependencies. Other ones are like documentation, evaluate, if you want to evaluate some JavaScript, format for formatting your source files, help prints out this information. Okay, install is for installing any scripts, linting, REPL, all of these features are available in Deno now. So the one which we are going to use is the run command that is used for running our Deno code. Okay. And next is the environment variables which Deno provides. So these are the set of environment variables which Deno provides to us. The Deno directory, the base directory, the okay, one second, guys. Guys, is my screen visible? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it's visible, Jaswant.
Yeah, I just lost connection with my other screen, so sorry.
Okay.
All right, so cool. Okay, so other ones are like upgrade. If you want to upgrade the Deno executable, so that will upgrade the CLI, the Deno version, and some environment variables which you get. Okay, so we'll just go through these later. We'll just go through the commands, how they execute. Okay. Next thing is in the case of Deno, which we should see is the permissions part. So permissions is a new thing which is introduced in Deno. So permissions are like the same thing which I told you about, like the security. When you are working with Deno, any script which you run, it needs to, you have to provide permissions to allow network access, file system access, to allow network environment, all of those things. Okay, so let's go through the permissions over here. So if you run a Deno application, you can set that it allows all the permissions. Allow environment access, that will give you the environment variables. Okay, this is a new permission which is added in, I think, 1.1. Allow network over in this 1.1. I think the new thing is you can also whitelist particular domains. So if you know that this Deno application needs to communicate with only like example.com, so you can say, okay, allow network access only for example.com or any specific application, any domain which you want to. So if you allow only for like a specific domain, any other request for other domains will be rejected. So this is good for security. So it only allows it for known domains. Allow plugin loading. So if you want to allow plugins to be loaded up, this is a feature which is still in development. Allow read. So allow read will allows you to read files from the system. So you can again pass in a list of files or directories which you want to read from the system. So if you are creating logs in your Deno application and you want to store them or read them in your application, you can allow these settings. Okay, and allow run is for subprocesses. If you want to run any subprocess in your application, so that will be used for that. So if you don't allow this, any subprocess will not be allowed to be executed in your code. Okay. All right, so we're done with some basics of Deno, how it works. So we'll see how a Hello World application can be created. So I already have the code base set up for that in this workshop. Okay, so first we'll run a JavaScript file. So I'll just clear this console over here. Actually, it's going to be more of a console application. So let's make some space over here and here. Okay, so when you're starting with Deno, the code base which you are writing is pretty similar to a Node.js code base. It works the similar way. The only difference is the key APIs which are provided by Node.js and Deno. So all of these APIs in Node.js, mostly the native APIs, they are based on callbacks. Like if you use read file, write file, they are based on callbacks or they have a synchronous method with them. Okay, but in the case of Deno, all of those APIs are available as promises. So Deno follows the promise-based structure for creating all the functions or the methods in Deno. That is good because now if they support promises, then you can directly write async await code on any native API which you want. Okay, so it's up to you now as a developer. You want to use async await or a then method on a promise to handle that scenario. Okay, and the APIs which are developed in Deno are mostly different. Like they work the similar way, but the import syntax and the function signatures or method signatures are completely different. So you should at least go through the demo site and see out what APIs does it provide. Okay, so a very basic Hello World application. So we'll just write Hello World in a console.log and run this code. Okay, to run this code, I can say Deno run and which file I want to run. Okay, so I have to run 1.1.js. And it provides you this output. So it comes from the Deno code, which is Hello World. Okay, so this is JavaScript file. It's not compiling anything over here because it knows it's a JavaScript file. So you can write any ASIC syntax over here and works perfectly fine. But now let's move it a little in a different way, in which I want to create a TypeScript file and write my code into it. So if it was a TypeScript file running in Node.js, Node.js will not be able to understand this code. It will say like, what is this string coming in? Why do you have this syntax over here? But in the case of Deno, when you run the same syntax in Deno, okay, so what it does, it compiles this file and sees what is the difference in it. So if I change some syntax over here, save this file, run it again. So you can see it sees that there is a file change, like something has changed on this particular file, and it has to recompile this file to provide the output. So it printed out this message that it's compiling this particular file and all the dependencies of it, and then give us this message. If you are running the same file without any modifications, it will not recompile the files. You can see it immediately returns plus the console.log. But any changes done to the file are cached again. So Deno will recompile the file and cache the contents of the file again, and then give us the output. So I just made a change. I reverted the message. Now you can see it's again saying it's compiling. It takes few seconds to compile depending on how much code you have, and then prints out the output, which is hello world over here. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, I got a few questions. Let me just go through them. So one is from Dinesh. The question is, will Deno outlaw Node.js? If yes, how it will be for Node.js developers to learn? So Dinesh, for a Node.js developer, I don't think it's going to be very hard. It's the same kind of a syntax as if you're just following, like as a developer, you're creating simple applications like web applications, it won't be very hard. But if you are a very advanced user who has tweaked Node.js to the lowest level of its code execution, then you will face differences, like there are differences with the libraries and all. But as a developer for a day-to-day development, it's very easy to pick up Deno. The only thing right now with Deno is the packages which we use. The number of packages in Node.js, the npm packages is huge, like there are millions of them. But in the case of Deno, they are very restricted, and people are developing new packages day by day. So it's very easy to move from Node.js to Deno. But as a companies to adopt Deno right now, I would say it will take some time, because it just released like a month and a half back. And for any company to create an enterprise level application or move to production, they will still take some time to understand how reliable it is and how much resources does it take for the application. Okay, so I got another question. The question is from Shailesh. The question says, can it take it can take at least a decade, as you can see. Yeah, it can. Shailesh, you're right. It will take a lot of time. Companies adopt to Deno right now. It's not going to be a very simple change that you go to the office next day and see like people are developing on Deno. Companies will take a lot of time, because even when Node.js was started up, there was people were still working with .NET, Java, or PHP, and taking a lot of time to understand how the Node.js environment works and how it can be used in the applications. And still, even after all these years, Node.js in the market, people are still reluctant to move to Node.js, because they have been working on their application for a long time, and in some scenarios, Node.js still is not a good solution. Okay, so next question is from Shanak. The question says, what steps do we need to take to migrate our application from Node.js to Deno? So Shanak, for migrating a Node.js application to Deno, you have to rewrite all the logic. You have to rewrite all the places where you're using Node.js APIs. Any place where you're using callbacks, they have to be, it's better to move them to promise-based code base. So there will be a lot of changes, and it's not a very clear path right now that or any utilities which are available which can directly migrate your code from Node.js to Deno. Okay. Okay, so got a question from Dinesh. The question says, what are the frameworks in Deno, like Express in Node.js? So Dinesh, there is a framework which is available, which is equivalent to Express. I will show you that. I will give a demo of that. That's in the session. So you can see how you can create an API similar to Node.js by using Deno. Okay, I got a question from Aditya. So what are the most compiling reasons for switching to Deno? So Aditya, I think the main reasons will be how the code base has been structured. It follows best practices right now. There are lots of issues in Node.js which are regarding security, the way NPM packages work, the reliability of NPM, and the deploying code. Right now, if you see all of those code base, if you create a Node.js application, it has hundreds of packages. But the way Deno has been targeting developers, they are saying they will try to reduce the number of dependencies on different packages and make it much more cleaner to develop application in Deno. So we have to still see how people adapt to it and what are the most compiling reasons for setting up Deno. Okay, so I got another question from Abhi. The question says, why not they implemented security in Node.js only? Why a new release, or why Deno is introduced? Okay, so Abhi, the thing is, it's not about only security. Security is as a part which you can easily set up on your system also, but the most other important things are like how the code base has been structured, reducing the dependencies on NPM. Because in the few last years, there have been lots of issues with packages on NPM or how those are handled as a security, and how the architecture of Node.js actually is handling the code. So it relies on C++ APIs, which are not efficiently written, or they can be improved. So just because it was developed long back, and it still needs legacy support, so you will not like your code to work on a specific version and doesn't work on a newer version. So all of those reasons actually made them decide, okay, let's move to a different release, like create a completely different architecture, and it does create Deno on top of it. Okay, so got a question from Vineet. The question is, does Deno allow us to configure TS compilation? Yeah, Vineet, we can set up TS compilation on your system. You can write a TS config file in your project over here. So you can say TS config. Sorry, my system is pretty slow. And based on this TS config file, TS config.json file. Based on this, it will allow you to set up the compilation, or which version of compile you want. Any TS configurations you want to set up on your code, you can do it in this file. Okay, I'm not keeping it over here because it will create problems with the compilation, but you can. So on the Deno site, they have a default TS config file which Deno uses. And based on your requirements, you can download that and start making tweaks into it. So here, the file which you create will override the defaults which Deno actually has in it. Okay, so these were the last question. I got a question from Dhaval. The question says, I wanted to know how the security is improved in Deno. What was the problem with Node.js? Okay, Dhaval, I will just show you an example of it, like how it works. Okay, so we have seen how a TypeScript file works and a JS file works in Deno. So let's move ahead and let's use some packages. Like, what is the main difference between Deno packages and NPM packages? So first of all, Deno packages are not hosted on a specific site. Like in the case of NPM, you download all the packages from NPM site. They host all the packages. You have to publish a package to their site, and it's fine if you're using public packages, but when you're using a corporate enterprise environment, so you want to create your own packages which are hosted on your own enterprise network, then it creates a little problem. You have to find out solutions which can replicate the same way npm works, or environment where you can store the packages. So to improve this experience, what Deno team implemented is, they said like you can host your JavaScript files anywhere on any application. Like if you say if you want to create an application like my Deno package, you can register a domain, or you can even put it on GitHub also. So you can say this is the URL. You have to provide a public URL to it. Okay, so it has to be HTTPS and the public URL and the JS file which you want. So you can have a TS file or a JS file, up to you. Okay, so right now you can see over here, this is deno.land/x file size.mod. Okay, so this is a package which is hosted on the Deno site. Okay, but this is referred to another GitHub repository. So we'll see the site that just redirects to our GitHub repository and gets the JS file from there. So what you can do is you can host the package on any kind of a hosting, any kind of a static hosting, and share that URL of that JS file or the TS file with anybody in the community. So you can create a hosting which is private to your network, or you can host packages public to a network. You don't have to publish them to npm now or any specific Deno site. The only reason you should publish your packages to Deno site is so that people can access the package, they know about the package. But Deno actually just sends a request to GitHub or anywhere you are hosting your package. Okay, so in this case, I'm using this a package called file size. What it does is you pass in some numbers to it. It returns what is the size equivalent in megabytes or gigabytes or kbs and all. Okay, so to use it, we just need to write the import syntax. So we'll write import from the URL over here. Okay, so this is a direct URL to that particular file, and once we run this file, what Deno does is it actually downloads that code and keeps a cache of that in its system. Okay, so an important difference over in Deno and a Node.js application is, in a Node.js application you have a Node modules folder where all the Node modules are present. Any npm packages which are used are present over there. Okay, but in the case of Deno, it doesn't create a package.json file. It doesn't create a Node modules folder for you. So that's the first thing. So you don't need a package.json file in Deno projects. Okay, so the only so when Node.js was developed, the only reason package.json file was created was to list down all the dependencies which are in development and in the development and the production. Okay, but people started adding lots of information to it, lots of tweaks to it, which actually ended up with further problems to it. So instead of doing all that thing, Deno doesn't rely on a package.json file and doesn't gives you the option to create it. Okay, it just follows all the imports which you have. So when it compiles your code, it will look for all those imports which you have in your code and include in your system. All right, so you don't need to create any package.json file, and it doesn't also create some Node modules folder or Deno modules folder kind of thing. Okay, what it does, it's any module which you download, it goes to a centralized folder, which is the Deno environment. The Deno folder which you used for installation. That is probably the .deno folder which is created on the system and stores all your packages installed on the system in that folder. Okay, and anytime when you are requesting for a particular package, it picks it from there. Now, the next thing which comes up over here is how do I do managing of versions of packages? So like when you use Node.js, in the package.json file, you define, okay, I need Express with version 3, version 4, or Lodash with version 1.2, 1.4, like that kind of thing. Okay, so how does that kind of a syntax is going to be written over here? So to add the versioning, what Deno says is, you just write the name of the branch from which you want to get the code. So now as a developer, what you have to do is, when you're publishing packages, you have to create specific versions of specific branches for every version you publish the package in Deno. Okay, so I feel this like as a developer, when I started using Deno, I feel this is kind of a problematic thing because if I uh, don't write any branch over here, it automatically points to the master branch. Okay, so that means it's like it's pointing to the master of that particular repo and getting whatever the code is over there. Okay, so now if some other developer, like even like this guy who has created file size, just upgraded the code for master, and I didn't checked out, like, okay, I didn't define the version over here. So what will happen is my code may actually break because I don't know what is the newer API this file size package has implemented, what methods does it expose or not. So that actually is a kind of a risky thing right now, which I feel, but Deno team has proposed different solutions to it. So first thing, as a developer who is publishing any package, should always create a version for every release. Sorry, a branch for every version which they are releasing. Okay, so that as a developer, when I'm consuming any package, I can say I want that particular package from this particular version. Okay, for this particular branch. So the branch name can be added over here. Okay, or the developer who is creating the file, the package, if the developer is not careful about this particular thing, and they started just creating packages and updating them, pushing everything to the master, what you can do is you can specifically point also to a commit ID. So in GitHub, when you use GitHub, it also allows you to get a commit ID. What you can do is you can also write the commit ID over here. So commit ID is a unique identifier which is provided to you. So you can write commit ID over here in this case. So if you know that the commit ID is like something this, you can write the commit ID over here. The benefit of this is anytime you run this code, it's going to be specifically looking for this commit and getting the code from that part only. So that even if the developer upgrades a particular version, so you're always pointing to that particular commit. And if you feel that your code is it needs to be upgraded, you can point to a different commit or different branch in that case. Okay, so this is a thing which, as a developer, I have to see that these things are always mentioned out. Now, the example for that is done over here in the 1.4. Okay, sorry, 1.4 is different. It's over here in 1.5, I think. Yeah, so this is the example which shows like how to use the branch name or the commit ID over here. So you just write @ the branch name or the commit ID which you want to pick. You can also use tags also. So as a developer, the creator of that code, the package code, can also create tags. So you can use branches, tags, or commit IDs to specify which particular package you want to point to, the version of package you want to point to. Okay, right. So if I run this code, I'll just show you the code for over here. Here, run Deno, run 1.5. Okay, so it runs a similar output, but now it's pointing to this particular version of code which is getting downloaded. So because I already installed, ran this code earlier, so it's not showing up a message which says installing that particular package. Otherwise, if it was a new code base, it will show that, okay, this is this package is being getting installed, and then the code will run. Okay, so Deno take care of downloading all the package dependencies which you require. Right. So now this is how we install packages and specify versions. But without package.json file, there is another problem which is in this code base now. Okay, so the another problem which is right now is let's see, like we are a team of 2-3 developers, like starting from a small team to a large team. It can be like n number of developers. What I'm doing is I want to use this file size package. Okay, every time what I have to do is I have to write this file size package import in all of my files. So if I have like 50 files, and every time I'm using it, I have to write the same thing in 50 files. And then after a few days, we realized, okay, the file size package on the master branch is not correctly working, but something on a specific branch, the file size on a specific branch like 1.1 is perfectly working fine. So we have to change all of the code to move to the 1.1 branch. So I have to go to all those 50 files and say, okay, use file size from 1.1 branch. Okay, this has to be done again, and every file has to be changed. And it's a lengthy task because every time this kind of a things happens with you, you have to go to all those files, you have to refer it again, and there are some cases where you might actually miss this kind of a thing. So what you can do is, what I suggest is create another supportive file. So over here, this is example. So create one file, name it as dependencies or deps, and include all your dependencies in that file. So if you need to use file size, import file size over here and export all the methods which you need from file size package or any other package. I'm just not saying about file size package, for any packages. So export all those packages from here, like if you have multiple of those, and use that particular file to load all your dependencies in your main code. So if I go to my 1.4 file, this is the main file which I'm using. Over here, I am not importing the file size method from the Denoland URL. So I'm importing from the 1.4.1. So now if I use this kind of a syntax, what happens is all of my imports are exported from one single file. I have the control which version of the code I want to use. So now if I realize, okay, no, the version on the master doesn't work correctly, and I have like different 50 files, I don't have to go to all the 50 files. I just have to go to one file which will be named as deps or dependencies or packages, anything on my code. I will say, okay, don't use master, use 1.1. That is the one. Okay. Now, whenever I save this and recompile my code, then I will see, okay, this particular version has changed over here. So it will change that particular version in the code. And all of those dependencies are actually looking from that file, the dependency file, and they will also be updated. So I don't have to go to all the files to modify the dependency. It can be done centrally from one file. So this is very similar to how package.json works. So you go to one package.json file, modify the change in the version or the package, and it's available to all the code base. Okay, so yeah, this is the one part. Another important thing in when you're moving from Node.js to Deno is you can see on the code over here. I just revert these changes. They will not work otherwise. Another important thing in Node.js and Deno is, in Node.js we don't write the file extension. We just write, okay, I want to get the code from a particular folder or a file. So if you say a folder, it looks for the index.js file in it, or however you configure. Maybe if you're using Webpack, it will say, okay, I want to use the index.ts file from it or index.js file from it to get the code. But in the case of Deno, you have to write the format of the file. So it doesn't work with like, it doesn't assume that there's going to be an index.js file which has to be picked from the folder automatically. It forces you to define which file you want to pick with what extension does the file has. Okay, so in this case, you can see it. I'm writing mod.ts. So mod is the file which I want to pick, and the extension for that is ts. So if I don't define it over here, Deno will say that you cannot run the code without defining our the file extension. So if I run this code, you can see it's saying it's not able to find, that file is not found over here. So it's not assuming that, okay, this is a file in the system, or is this a folder in which a file is going to be present. Okay. So you have to write mod.ts and then it starts working. Similar way for the files on your system, like files which are locally created. So if I write 1.1.1 like this and run my code for 1.1 over here, it will say, okay, I'm not able to resolve this particular file, which is 1.1.1.4.1. You have to define what extension of it is required. So I have to define, okay, so it can be it's a TS file, then only it will work. So now it knows, okay, this is a TS file which I'm looking for, then it works. Right? Okay, so this is the basics of how you create files. All the import syntax works fine. Works a similar way. The only difference is you have to define the file extension. So now, right now, you can see it's giving me an error over here, that extension error. You cannot define .ts in the extension path over here, because of JavaScript. When it was designed, like Node.js or JavaScript, it doesn't follow this kind of a syntax where you define the extension. That's why Visual Studio is giving me error over here, but there are ways to stop this error, so that you can configure the TS config so that it doesn't gives you this kind of error that you're not allowed to have the extension of the file on the URL. Okay, so you can configure your editor for fixing this problem. All right. So any questions till now on this?
I think there are two questions. One from Sak and the other one is from Sadish.
Okay. So we'll just go from the last. So the question is from Salesh. The question is, we don't have similar versioning like NPM. If once published, you cannot change anything on that version. So people using version don't see the magic happening of later in the day. Yeah, Salesh. So in the case of NPM, if you are modifying anything in your package, you have to forcefully bump the version. So if your current version is running at 1.1 and you want to make any kind of a change, you have to force the version to 1.2. Otherwise, NPM won't accept it. But in this case of Deno, that's not the mechanism over here. So even as a developer, I can move my code to the master branch multiple times. And the main problem which I faced with this thing is the licensing. I can handle out the code problems, but because the problem is if you're using a package which is based on MIT license, and later in the future the code base is still same, but the creator of that code may change the package of it, the license of it. It may change to a proprietary license which doesn't allow you to do commercial operations on it. Okay, so in that case you have to buy the license, and the problem is if this kind of a change happens, you won't be even notified that okay, the licensing has been changed. So this is a very big problem with what I faced with Deno imports. So that's why I checked out with the Deno team also, like people on the Deno Slack group who are contributing to it. They said you can use the commit on which that particular package has been deployed. So it's better to use the commit ID so that you're sure that on that particular commit ID, the package cannot be changed. First, they recommended out using the tags, but in the case of tags, the tags can also be moved from one commit to another commit. So it's better to use the commit ID if you want to be very sure about what you're going to use. Okay, so next question is from Saket. So what if we have a lot of dependencies in our application and we want to refresh some of the dependencies? How should we do? So there are so Saket, in that case, in the Deno CLI, there is an option to clear out all the dependencies which are installed in the cache, and it will reinstall all the dependencies again for you. Okay, another question from Saket. The question is, so when we install all the packages, they are cached in your local, and when we run our applications again, it won't fetch the packages from remote. Yes, Saket. So when when we install any packages, they are stored locally on the system. They are also shared across all the other applications in the system. Okay, so when you're off the network, it's not not off the network actually. When you are not so whenever you're running the code again, so for the second time, it's not going to install all those packages. So even if you're not on the network, the packages is available in your local system, and till you have the cache for those, it will not reinstall those packages. So you can develop your applications offline if you're not on the network. Okay, so I got another question from Santosh. This question is quite important. The reason is, in the case, the question is, the package.json file can be used for configuring npm scripts. How can we use them over here? Like if you want to set up npm scripts. So Santosh, I haven't tried this thing, but for the basic scripts, like for testing or linting, Deno provides its own scripts which you can use. But I haven't done a lot of experimentation on creating my custom scripts similar to Node.js over in Deno. Okay. Another question. The question is from Jaideep. The question is, where do we find the details for the Deno's dependency packages? So if you see a direct comparison between Node.js and Deno, there is no single file which has this kind of a dependency list. So what you have to do is you should, as a best practice, you should create this kind of a deps file or a dependency file in which you define all your project dependencies and refer all your dependencies from this file, so that it becomes kind of a centralized file where all your dependencies are mentioned out. Okay, I think we are done with the questions. All right, so let's move ahead with the next demo. So this is what the packages part from the slide. I'm just going through the slides, best practices. So next topic is creating a REST API with Deno, how we can use REST API. So there are different ways of setting up REST API with Deno. Similar to Node.js, Deno also provides your syntax on their site where you can see, like it's a basic syntax to create a HTTP server. And what you can do is you can use that, but you have to write a lot of things to configure it. All the routing mechanism, similar to Node.js, it doesn't have any inbuilt routing mechanism or code for setting it up. So you can use a package called Oak. Oak is a server similar to Express. You can compare it to Express. It has a different way of maintaining the code, but how the code is written, but does the same things which Express provides. So it has middlewares into it. It has a routing mechanism. You can create different routes and set up Oak server. Okay, so I'll just show you the example of an Oak server. So this is the Oak server, which is the same code base which the Oak team provides, the team which develops the code. Okay, so it's a package. It's not a Deno package. Sorry, it's not provided by the Deno team. It's a third-party package. Okay, and it's available from here. This is the URL for that. Okay, so denoland/x/oak/mod.ts. So okay, one important thing, mod.ts is the file which is kind of a standard for publishing your modules. So if you go to any package, you will always find a mod.ts file. This will have the information about what methods or classes this particular package is exporting out. Okay, so whenever you're using any package, you should import the mod.ts file. This will give you the information for it. Okay, so next thing is setting up the port. I set up the port for it. It's just a variable. Creating a new application from Oak server. So you define application similar to Express, where from Express you get Express application, you get application from Oak. Then on this application, you can set up a middleware. So similar to Node.js and Express, you have a middleware syntax. So in Express, you also use app.use and a function which sets the middleware. So right now, this is not handling URLs; it's just handling it kind of as a middleware. Okay, so it just receives it, and the CTX is the context. So every request which you receive provides your context in Oak, and this context will be used for receiving the context information, like what parameters are returned, what form information has been submitted, query parameters, and the body information which has been coming in the request can be received. And on this same context, you will receive a property which is a response. And response will be used for sending any data back to the client side. Okay, so over here you can see it's ctx.response.body. So you have to just assign a value to it, and this value will be returned back to the client side. And last thing is allowing you to listen to the network, and we define which port you want to listen to. So the difference over here is because it's specially designed for Deno, so it follows the promise-based architecture where everything returns a promise. You can use async await on your code also. So important thing, when you are running a Deno syntax, it automatically runs under async function. Okay, so you can directly run await for your code. So you don't have to write another function or a self-executing function to run await in it. So because this returns a promise, and you can directly say await for this promise and then move to the next line. In the case of Node.js and Express, Express has a callback function which says which gets called when the server is started. But because this is async await code, so you can directly write console.log after the await, so you know that the server has started. And if you want to check if the server is not started, you can write a try catch on this. So you can say try this and write the syntax like this. And catch any errors if the server has any issues in starting it up. Like this. Okay, so this is a very good thing because most of developers now are much more comfortable in writing async await code, and it avoids you to get into the callback hell which Node.js sometimes put you in, or JavaScript puts you in. So this actually helps you out in fixing those things. You will get these warnings. They are fine because in the ES6 code, or in the way the TypeScript the TS is configured on this, it doesn't allow you to write async await, like await keyword, without the async keyword. So and I don't have a asynchronous function written over here, so that's why it's giving me a warning. But the code will perfectly work fine. So I will just run this code. So let's say Deno run 1.6.ts. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, so the reason is it didn't work is it says permission denied. I am not allowed to access the network. And if I want to run any network queries or network requests, I have to allow it by using the flag over here. So this is the flag which I have to add if I want to use the network. So I didn't add that flag into the command, so I have to add this over here. So before the file name, I have to write allow net and run this code again. All right. Okay, yeah, 1 second. I haven't saved the file. We'll save the file again. Yeah. File in, and okay, so it's not printing out the console somehow, but let's see does it work or not. So we'll just open up a new tab. So guys, just give me 1 second. I have to stop the sharing. Actually, I have to need Chrome is crashing on my system, so I'll just open up a different browser. I just stopped it, stopped the screen sharing just so that I don't share anything personal on my system. Okay, and just over here. Okay, I'm just sharing it again. Okay, so you will be able to see this browser window over here. This is I'm using Edge now these days. Okay, so this is the message which is returning from the deno code. Okay, so it's running on port 8000, which is configured over here. Okay, and you can see this is the URL. If I refresh, it's just prints the value again. And I will just show you a change in the message so we are sure that this is the same code base. So it like this. Now the problem with Node.js is still over here. If you make any changes to the file, it doesn't watch that file. You have to manually run that file again. So we'll run that file again and refresh the page. What happened? Yeah, it's still compiling the file, so that's why it's not printing out any output. Okay. Yeah, it took a little bit time to compile that. Actually, my system is also very slow right now. So, but yeah, you can see if actually I think because I'm screen sharing and all those different windows are open on my system, so that's why it's a little slow. It's not able to compile as fast. But generally, if I develop this kind of applications, they compile very fast on Deno. Okay, so you can see it printed a different message, which is "Hello World" over here. All right, so this is the Oak server, which we can use for creating our REST APIs. So now this Oak server also provides you same kind of interface for creating the same kind of methods for creating routes or controllers for them or middlewares. So this example is for a middleware right now. You can see like whatever the request you get, just return it with response body saying hello world. Okay, so we can extend the similar code base with different syntax over here. So we'll show you. So I have this folder over here, 1.7, which has the code base of creating a kind of a very small, simple boilerplate for application. Over here, I have an index.js file, index.ts file, a deps.ts file, which is the dependency file for me, the data file, which has some data in it, which is an array of data, and a file which is for different routes I want to create. So in your application, you can create a file or you can create a folder of different routes. Because I have only 2 routes, so just have added a single file. You can have multiple files for this and split your routes into different files similar to Express. Okay, so I'll just walk you through this code. So the first thing is I need to use the Oak server. So I just created deps file, and this is the dependency file from where in this I'm importing the Oak server code and exporting application and router. Okay, so now I actually need to use application and router in my application in this example. So that's exported from here. Now in my index.ts file, I'm calling the dependency file over here as import and saying that from the dependency I want to use the application function. Okay, application class over here. Now, once the application class is loaded over here, we can create a new application similar to we have this other example, and then we have to tell Oak or the Oak application that it should use this routes and what allowed routes are allowed. So this is just a list of all the routes methods which are allowed on this application. Okay, and then in the end we'll just start this application. The next thing is defining how the routes work. So to define the routes, again from the deps file, I'm importing the router as a dependency, and I'm importing a data. This is just an array which is in a data file, which is over here. Okay. So over here, you can write the dependencies. Then you can say, I want to create a new router. On this new router, you define the route similar to Express, how Express routes are defined. You can define routes like /people. And when the response for /people comes in, you will just say context response.body and what content you want to return. Okay, so I'm just returning the list of data which is returned from that file, and that's an array, so it's returned from here. And the other example is if you want to pick up an ID from the parameters. So if your route has parameters, similar to Express, you can have parameters over here. Again, n number of parameters are allowed, and those are available on the context.params object. So that will have the list of all the parameters as a object which are available. Okay, now in this case, I'm just picking up a particular index from that array. So I'm just receiving a ID. That ID is going to the index in my array, and I'm just picking that from this object, from this array, and returning that item from here. Okay, so you can see the difference over here in this code is I'm directly using TypeScript syntax. So now you don't have to handle the compilation. I just start developing it out, and I don't need to handle out like, okay, how the compilation will work, what tsconfig file has to be defined, all those things. All right, so let's run this code. Okay, so this code is in the 1.7 file. So I'll run deno run 1.7 .index. So if I don't write index.tx, it won't work. So I'll just write index.tx. Okay, again it says need network access. Okay, the code was already compiled on my system, so it's not recompiling it. So I'll go to the browser again and write people over here. Okay. So this is the array which is returned from that file. So it's getting printed over here. And if I want to get a record for a specific person, I'll write /1 and returns me that particular item. Okay, so this is the server running on and returning me the data over here. Okay, so it works very similar to Node.js and Express. So if you are already very good with developing applications in Express, I feel you won't take much time in moving over here. The only mindset change would be everything is now running through promises and async await. So if you are using async await in your Node.js code, so it will be very easy for you to migrate over here. And the other thing is, if you are working with applications which access different things like operating system information or file system access, all those things, you just have to learn what different methods are mapped over here. So for read file, you have a method in then also for writing files or reading operating system information or running commands on your system. All of those PowerShell commands or shell scripts can be executed through Deno also. The only thing is you have to just learn what are the new syntax for that. you will get a similar output, and it will work in the same manner. All right. So any questions on this? Yeah, I got a lot of questions. I'll just go through them. Okay, so the first question is where can we find the download packages similar to Node modules? So I think those all packages are you have, so when I installed this code, then yeah, so it returns you this script file, this path over here. So when you install Deno on your system, it provides you these environment variables. So this is the Deno install folder, and this is the one. So I'll just open this up. Okay, so in the bin folder, let's go to bin. Deno. Okay, this is only Deno. Sorry. Okay, I think it should be providing over here somewhere. Okay, I will just send you that information later. I'm not sure. It was supposed to be over here in this folder, or it might keep somewhere else. Yeah, I will provide you that information later. I will publish it on the page. Okay, next question. Okay, so the question is Mongo supported on Deno? Yeah, so I'll show you the site, the Deno site actually on Edge here. Okay. So over here on the Deno site, you will find third-party modules. Okay. And here you will get the list of all the packages which are available. So these are publicly available packages. And you can find Mongo support also over there. So there are drivers for MongoDB. Yeah, there is one DenoDB. Found one over here. Yeah, there is a Mongo driver for Deno also available. So you can directly use this, I think. Okay, so for installing it, you can just say, I want to use Mongo client. This is the syntax, and it will start working on your system. And these are the network access which you need to allow on your system. Sorry, the permissions which you need for running MongoDB. Okay, so packages are available on Deno, but the thing is, it takes a little bit more time to find those out and test out those, because the code base over here is pretty new, and some of the packages are pretty stable because they have been just direct upgrades from Node.js to Deno, but some packages have to be rewritten in Deno again. So you have to be sure like they meet the requirements and they work in the same way. So when I started starting with Deno, there were only around 100 packages over here, 150 packages, but now the list has been growing up a lot. Okay, got a question. How can I use env files? Yeah, the answer is already given in the questions box. There's a package called .env for Deno also, which can be used for that. So next question is, it's not going to log the message for the port which is running from. It will. I was running this code. It was running. I think I made some issue in the code. That's why it's not running. I will show you that. Okay, so next is how do we do a absolute import syntax in Deno? So Sakit, I think you just mentioned you are referring around getting a specific file in the code, like in your same project. So that is simple. You can just write the path of that file and import it over here. Or if you want to do absolute import, you are referring to like from your file system only. Like on your file system, you have a file and you want to import it. Okay, we'll answer that question later. I got another question from Surjit. The question is there a way to define all the permissions once in a one place rather than defining while running? So Surjit, I haven't tried that kind of a requirement yet because most of the code which I've been developing, I just write one script file and run the script file in the code. So that's what solution which I do. But I haven't seen anything specific from the Deno team or like the Deno community how to run this kind of a scenario. What you can do is you can create a script file, a bash file, define the command for running the project for Deno, and run that script file instead of running the Deno command. And depending on Windows, Linux, or Mac, you can write your own script file or bash files, and in that you can define what is the dependencies on what what permissions the dependencies have in your code. Okay, any other question? Okay, so I got a response from Saket. The question, so he's saying, I mean, importing the file using the absolute path relative to the project folder. One second, Saket. Yeah, Saket, you can write this kind of a syntax. There is an environment variable which is available, which allows you to get the the folder position, like the folder name, and then you can use that for using it. But if you are using it from the files are already in your project, so there is no sense of making it an absolute path because it would be very hard for you to manage it out across different folders. So you can just use the relative approach. That's much more simpler. So the import and export syntax works the same way in ES6 and or in TypeScript or JavaScript, and there is no change to it. So the only difference is it allows you to get from HTTPS URL over the network, or the other change is you have to write the file extension along with it. Without the file extension, it will not allow you to import that file in Deno. That's the only change. Other than all the path syntax and the way import and export works, it's the same thing. Okay. Any other question, guys? Okay, I think we are done with the questions. All right, so just a time check. So we are 1.5 hours into the session. So for this session, this was what I planned for, like showing you example of how we can create API with Deno. So I think I'm done with the demo part. If you have anything specific to discuss, we can discuss around it. For the session, I'm done with the content which I was supposed to cover.
Awesome. Fine. So anyone else is having any questions right now? Like guys, you can even raise your hand and come and ask directly to Jaswant. I'm just running a poll. Like, if you have any question, how can we deploy? Okay, Salish has asked one question. How can we deploy? Any rough picture on architecture on Dino?
Okay, so Dinesh, I will share that architecture. There is a similar graphic how event loop in Deno and Rust works. So there is a graphic for that. I will share you on the link which Sana has mentioned out. So I will you can get from that. Sana, there is a link I can share it on, I think.
Which link you're talking about? Like
So
the one.
is there a way I can send them the information later on after the session?
Yeah, you send it to me and
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
send them.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you have right now, you can directly send chat box as well.
I don't have it right now, but I will send you later.
Okay. Just send it to me. I'll share that link in the mail, which I'll be sharing with you after the session. Otherwise, you can also join a Discord group. So I'm just sharing with you, and I think either Jaswant or even me can share that link there.
Yeah, I'm also on the Discord group, so yeah, that would be better actually.
Okay,
We
awesome.
can have a discussion after the session also.
Yeah, so I'm sharing the link. So this is a Discord link, and plus, guys, if you can provide us the feedback on today's session, I'm sharing the link for the feedback. So that would be great if you can share the feedback with us. Please check it out the link and reach out to Jaswant after the session if you have any doubt. Anyway, the social launch area will be open. But in case after that you have any doubt, I'm sharing Jaswant's LinkedIn link and Twitter handle as well. I'm sharing my links as well. Like in case you want to see what other webinar we are doing, you can even follow Recro on Instagram and LinkedIn. We are very active on Instagram and LinkedIn to all these activities. So for the next webinar, we will be coming up with some new topics. And regarding the recording, I will be anyway sharing a mail with you guys. But you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get I would say, a notification also once I upload the video. So please, you can just follow us there and please join this feedback form. Please fill it off so that we can understand how the webinar was. Okay, fine. If anyone is having any other question, please.
So there is one question I will just answer.
Yeah.
So the question is from Shailesh. How can we deploy Deno applications? So Shailesh, the deployment works very similar to Node.js. If you already have deployed Node.js code on EC2 or any server, what you can do is you can just create a bundle from Deno. So there is a command for that. I will just show you over here. So Deno bundle 1.7 index.ts. What? Okay, some problem happened. Okay, my Deno setup again stopped working. But when you run this command, it will give you the output as a single file. So what you can do is the final command you should run is like this, bundle.js. Okay, so this will take the content from that particular output and create a new file for you in your code base. Okay, and if you work with PM2 as a package manager, PM2 as a script manager for Node.js, you can run Node.js, PM2 the similar way. PM2 is available for Deno, and you can configure PM2 to run your Deno scripts also. The only difference is you have to install Deno on your mesh system instead of Node.js. So Apache configurations, all of those things, Nginx configurations, they work the similar way. Just replace Node.js with Deno, take the output file from here, and configure PM2 to run those output files. So it will work the same way. Okay.
I hope he got his answer. Fine then. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much, Jaswant, taking time out of your busy schedule and teaching us so much about Deno, because that was a very, I would say, a topic which everyone wants to learn. It's a very new topic, and everyone wants to know what Deno is. So thank you so much, Jaswant. We really appreciate, and thank you so much, guys, for joining us here. You can grab a seat in Social Launch. If you have any other doubt, you can ask Jaswant. Jaswant can come to your seats and he can clarify your answers. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.